The Asylum started off as any other independent filmmaker, making just regular films, however with not much success. So they realized they had to really get people's attention in order to get any money. However, unfortunately, rather than making better movies, they made over-the-top names. Mostly names which are similar to upcoming movies, such as Alien vs. Hunter tying into Alien vs. Predator, and Dragons tying into Aragon. Most of the movies, frankly, aren't too good, but the Asylum doesn't really care, they just care what makes them money. Their first hit, and I use the term loosely because it was mostly an ironic hit, was Sharknado. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about another Sharksploitation they did, Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus.
So we start with shots of snowy mountains. Not exactly the place you expect to find a mega shark or a giant octopus. Now we're in the water. That's a bit more sensible. Now we're in the mountains. Now in the water. That shark doesn't look that big.
We all live in a yellow submarine. Yellow submarine.
You know, I just don't get this opening. Where's this supposed to be anyway? Something sea off the Alaskan coast. So we see a chopper and some guy in it talking to someone about something.
322 at 10, report on station, maintain visual.
His visual appears to be B-grade CGI icebergs. Then we cut to the scientists in the yellow submarine we saw earlier.
Just relax and enjoy it.
Uh-oh, the button seemed to be stuck.
There's poetry here.
A bunch of hammerhead sharks doesn't sound too poetic to me.
Speedbird, this is Admiral Falco. Are you done with the canvassing?
The survey is negative, radar is negative.
My understanding of what's going on is negative.
It's a vast wasteland, Admiral. There's no one around.
Except those two people underwater.
They cut the engine.
Wait a moment, those buttons are just recycled Nokia buttons. Who built this submarine?
Speedbird 2 Admiral getting into position, ready to deploy LFAS.
Wait, so you're testing a weapon? Rather than just go somewhere and check to see if there's no one around and not factor in submarines, why don't you test the weapon somewhere which is designated, or possibly just tell people you're going to test the weapon there?
So the weapon gets deployed in the water, which results in the scientist's sonar malfunctioning. So the weapon makes the iceberg crack up, which results in a hard-to-see chunk of the iceberg falling on the helicopter, making it explode. A few shaky shots later, we see that the iceberg was holding the mega shark and the giant octopus. Later, at Kobe, somewhere in Japan, we see some guys talking about stuff.
Like urinating on coworkers? Haven't you guys ever been to a frat party? You're taking this way too seriously.
What are you guys talking about?
We got a bunch of crazy palefaces pissing in your little blue.
All I heard was urinating and pissing. Do I really need to hear this conversation?
Here's the thing. Bigger things are going on here.
I would certainly hope so.
Suddenly the rig gets attacked by the giant octopus.
I'm pretty sure octopi don't growl. Oh, hang on, that's not the octopus growling. That's the sound of the rig falling apart. I just couldn't tell because you don't actually see it, just a bunch of shaky shots.
So after seeing some close-ups of the octopus, we move on to Point Doom, California.
Wait, Point Doom? I know that's not spelled D-O-O-M, but that's not a very pleasant sounding name when you say it out loud.
So we see the scientists from earlier discussing what they saw.
Yeah, and also
What?
I don't know, I thought I saw something else out there.
I'm pretty sure if I saw two giant sea creatures, I'd remember it crystal clear.
They know some guys in fancy suits in the place they were sent to investigate. The lady scientist goes and investigates, but man stays in the car. She's here to investigate a wounded beached whale.
What a mess.
I think mess is an understatement for a beached whale.
Emma then notices something strange about the wound.
Tears in his flesh didn't come from anything mechanical. This wound's organic.
Organic, Christ. Emma, do you know how you sound? You name one thing in that ocean that causes damage like that. Besides you.
Burn, I guess? What's he talking about?
Look, I didn't steal the dory, I just borrowed it.
Yeah, $500,000 of damage to the mini sub that you borrowed.
They talking about the submarine? You mean that wasn't an off-rights test? What is going on?
And so they continue arguing about it.
What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just allergic to men in suits.
Huh. Allergy to men's suits wasn't a condition I was aware of.
We then get a bunch of flash cuts.
This just burns me up. It's all about the dory.
What's the point of those flash cuts? Couldn't you do, you know, just a normal cut? Like that there.
So late at night, more investigating is being done. Emma sneaks in to investigate the body of the whale herself. Emma extracts a bone from the whale and flash cut to Tokyo Federal Detention Center, where some prisoner gets interviewed. And for some reason he has a glow stick.
Mr. Rory.
Did you just call him Miss?
Mr. Rory.
Oh, Mr. Rory. That already badly pronounced mystery.
So it seems the man being held captive was at the oil rig when the giant octopus attacked it. And the scientist is here to ask him about... Wait a moment, that's a cigarette lighter. Okay, my mistake, but did the props department really need to get such a distractingly fluoro cigarette lighter?
Your family will soon be put at ease, but you must cooperate. These people can be very unpleasant when they don't get their way.
Cross them, and they will make you watch this movie.
What did it look like?
Is it really that hard to say it looked like a giant octopus?
Then we move on to what is undoubtedly the highlight of the movie.
For tray up, sir. Seat back up, miss.
Who are those people and what they have to do with this movie?
Holy shit!
I don't care how big that shark is or how high it could jump, just what would it do? I mean, does the silhouette of an aeroplane look like some sort of ancient giant flying fish or something? But really, why would that happen? Well, that's just the sort of stuff that happens in Sharksploitation.
Attention passengers, as crazy as this might sound, we are currently being attacked by a giant shark. If you have any prayers you want to say, or regrets you want to reflect on, please do so now. So after being dismissed from her scientific institute, Emma goes home and does some research of her own. She needs a bit more help on research, so she meets up with an old friend.
Sounds like you need to look at the Irish. You sure you're all right, lassie?
Totally not a forced accent.
Well, I was just fired by the Institute, Lamar. And I'm pretty sure I'm being followed.
By whom?
The feds.
Ah, the bloody feds. They'll hound you till you're leaking from every orifice.
I'd almost forgotten this guy was Irish. Thanks for making him say all these words and phrases that make him sound more Irish.
Anything you want me to look at?
Funny you should ask.
What's with all the flash cuts? It's like in Hot Fuzz where there was editing to make everyday things look more intense. However, that was satire comparing action movies to real life. But in this movie, it seemed to be to make the movie seem more intense than it actually is.
So anyway, they go to Emma's house to do some research on the tooth. Lots of sciencey things are shown. Beakers with colorful liquid in it, microscopes, computer stuff.
Because that's how you do science, right?
They then conclude that the bone is a fragment of a megalodon's tooth.
The largest carnivorous fish ever known to have existed.
And quite possibly the largest shark ever to have lived.
Well, duh. Are there sharks that aren't fish or something?
Fossil evidence has revealed, by yours truly, that Megalodon fed upon large marine animals.
I'm pretty sure you're not the first guy to find out that the world's largest shark ate giant marine life.
So the Japanese scientist meets up with Emma and the Irish scientist.
These
After a bit of a discussion, it seems quite apparent that whatever attacked the whale is not the same creature that attacked the oil rig in Japan.
I agree. This is definitely not the eye of a shark.
No, more like a...
Let's see who it is.
Here's your pizza. Oh, thanks. Actually, it's a DVD of footage recorded by the submarine.
For such a high-tech submarine, you'd think it'd have a better camera than a potato.
Oh my god, I thought I imagined that.
Definitely a shark.
Really? Because to me that looked like a tentacle.
Actually, the octopus does get addressed as well.
Same as the drawing.
I suspected.
What, giant squid?
Octopus.
It's funnier when you consider the fact that she's a marine biologist and should easily know the difference between a squid and an octopus.
So the three scientists discuss things at the beach.
Fish and chip?
I'm trying to go veg.
Fish and chip, not fish and chips. How do you have a singular fish and chip? I mean, you could have just one chip and a piece of fish, but for that you'd say fish and a chip. Did whoever write this think that fish and chips isn't battered fish served with chips, but rather chips with fish in them? That will explain why she can't just have chips and not the fish if she's trying to go vegetarian.
Vince was smart to send you the videotape rather than go to the authorities.
You know, why do we still say things like tapes when they're an obsolete format?
Amazing. Two prehistoric creatures suddenly and mysteriously unleashed upon the world.
Maybe not so mysteriously. Polar ice caps are melting because of our thoughtlessness. Maybe this is our comeuppance.
Must every B-grade monster movie relate itself to global warming? I know environmental awareness is a common theme in monster movies, but can't they be a bit more original?
So after an unnecessary shot of dolphins, we cut to a US lead destroyer. It seems the Navy is on pursuit of either the mega shark or the giant octopus. Once the mega shark is in sight, the movie goes all crazy with its flash cuts.
Battle stations, battle stations! All ahead, full. All ahead, full. Execute plan Delta. 500 yards! Intercept plot locked. Start target is in the zone. Commence firing.
But I wasn't done yet. Damn, this movie's end. Hang on. Wasn't that just the same footage we saw just a moment ago flipped? Possibly.
And we'll throw in the shot one last time for good luck.
Well, it clearly wasn't the shark's fault. We could see from its perspective it wasn't attacking the ship.
So the three scientists are captured and taken to Treasure Island?
Arrgh.
Huh. Apparently there is an island in San Francisco called Treasure Island. Anyone who lives in San Francisco would probably think I'm stupid for not knowing that, but interesting. Naturally, the scientists are here to help the government do research on the creatures that are attacking.
Now clearly, we're dealing with a menace that no one has ever imagined, much less counted on. Like Hurricane Katrina. Very good. And funny, Dr. Shimada.
Because natural disasters where people died is top-grade humor.
Naturally, of course, the government wants to kill the creatures, however, the scientists say otherwise.
We've been discussing possible means of containment.
You mean destruction?
No, we mean containment. Yes, these creatures are a threat, but they also represent the most significant scientific discovery of our time. You can't just annihilate that.
Well, more scientists want to keep the monsters alive in order to research. Imagine what could have been discovered if scientists did research on Godzilla.
The scientists need to find some way to lure both the creatures, so they go to the laboratory and mix colors.
Because that's how you do science, right?
We then get a soppy attempt of a romance scene between Emma and the Japanese scientist.
Yeah, well, I was always drawn to the water. Always felt like a part of it.
Me too.
Didn't matter how rough or stormy or how big the waves were. Never scared me.
Me too. My family were all fishermen. Lived on the water. Lived because of the water. They all wanted me to follow in their footsteps.
Why didn't you?
No. You're supposed to say, me too.
After a discussion of how gruesome fishing is, they kiss.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I'm gonna go take a walk. You know, a walk?
Since when was a walk a safety term?
Smells so good.
So do you. Smell is a powerful thing. Scent-based cues help us zero in on optimal partners. Smell may even explain why we feel chemistry with one person and not another.
If you've ever wondered what scientists' pillow talking sounds like, now you know.
What?
Pheromones.
My God, are you thinking that we...
Pheromones, the attraction, we can use it to draw them in.
Yay, what we just did contributes to science!
So the scientists mix some pheromones which makes it light up.
I'm pretty sure the term glowing in the context of pheromones isn't supposed to be taken literally.
They then explain their plan to the army.
How can we be so sure that they're going to take the bait?
Those guys have been frozen in ice for millions of years. Wouldn't you be a little horny?
And so the Japanese scientist needs to go back to Japan to create a bait to lure in the giant octopus.
I feel like we just started getting to know one another.
I know. All this darkness, you were the one ray of light.
Don't you mean, out of all the smells, you're the one that stood out the most?
And so the army goes out to search for the shark.
Shark or squid?
Octopus.
Hard to say.
They are both roughly the same size.
You don't have to be a marine biologist to recognize those are tentacles. And the octopus is supposed to be in Tokyo, not San Francisco Bay.
So the plane descends to investigate, and sure enough, it's the octopus.
Mayday, sir, I'm going down.
You seem to be at the same elevation to me.
So after the plane gets destroyed, the torpedo with pheromones is launched. At least I think that's one with pheromones. Or the pheromones come from this case the scientists are planting. Whatever. Then we move on to the shark. The army goes against the scientists' plans and attack the shark, which doesn't end well for them.
Can we get this over with already?
The shark then goes for the San Francisco Bridge.
Wait a moment. He disappeared between shots. Yeah, that was goofy, but it still doesn't top when it took a bite out of an aeroplane.
Then the Japanese scientist gets in contact with the American army.
I sincerely hope you've had more success in San Francisco than we've had here in Tokyo.
Not really.
After discussing what little success there's been in Japan, the government decides to take really drastic measures.
So what are you suggesting?
Perhaps it's time to consider something more all-encompassing.
What, nuke?
Yeah.
Haven't you seen the 1954 or 2014 Godzilla movies? Nuclear bombs just make giant monsters stronger.
I don't believe I'm hearing this.
Nor I.
I do. It's the military default setting.
What's the default saying of the military in Hover Tank 3D anyway?
And so Emma gets some rest and has a dream which consists of footage as seen earlier in the movie.
Oh my god! They ran out of footage to use!
Jesus, what?
Thrilla in Manila.
What?
Thrilla in Manila.
Come again?
My thoughts exactly. There's gotta be something on the internet about this somewhere. I'll look it up. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Did you just invent that phrase for this movie?
Well, get them to kill each other.
Well, why didn't you just say so?
And so Emma explains her plan to the army.
How do you propose we get these two things together?
We implement the same pheromone lure procedure we used earlier.
It was the only aspect that worked perfectly.
Okay, say they do come together. What's going to guarantee they're going to duke it out?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to track them using pheromones, they could get so aroused they forget they're not the same species, and... Is this movie a prequel to Sharktopus?
It's in their nature. They're natural-born enemies. The fact that they were frozen mid-combat makes that clear.
Well, if they're so determined to kill each other, why didn't they resume fighting after they were unfrozen?
We got one small problem. What do we see up there?
The world?
Nothing.
Score one for Miss Fancy Pants. They're running silent and they're running deep.
And then they talk science about how they're going to bring the two creatures together. And so, after a bit of filler, both parties finally meet the Meg Shark and Giant Octopus. The Japanese sub gets shaken around a bit, and we finally get to the battle the title of the movie promised. But we have the same problem which Alien vs Predator Requiem had. The fight scene is too dark to see.
It takes a while to get to the big fight in Monster vs. movie, however, it usually doesn't take this long, and you can see what's going on, and it's long enough to enjoy. This movie...
So after the battle is over, it turns out the Japanese sub is okay. Yay! Emma and the Japanese scientist have a romantic time on the beach, but then the Irish scientist comes and interrupts them.
What's this?
The script to the sequel.
And so the scientists go off to do whatever it is they're going to do. We see the two sea creatures sink to the bottom of the ocean, and roll credits.
So that was Meg Shark vs. Giant Octopus. You know those movies where there's only one memorable scene, such as the White House blowing up in Independence Day? Well, this is one of those movies, and is of course for...
Holy shit!
Aside from that, there isn't really a lot of engaging scenes in this movie. It's mostly just bland story, bland characters, bland CGI, and bland action.
This is one of those movies that potentially could have been so bad it's good, but just became so bad it's bad. I'm done here.